Slam Music Survival Guide. This week's guest is Alysen Rowse, the author of We've Got Tonight, The Life and Times of Notorious Groupie, Alysen Rowse. And yes, we do gossip, but we also get into what Slam is all about, protecting musician mental health and everyone's mental health and well-being. Quote from this episode: "You need the groupies, you need the laughter back. Without them, rock and roll is boring." Keep listening to hear what it's all about. I like the way the lines went at the back of the stocking. What's up, everyone? Jack Mangan here from Support Life and Music. You know me also from the Metal Hall of Fame, metalasylum.net, and occasionally they let me in the door over at the Metal Voice. Today, we have a really wonderful conversation. I do want to give a shout out to Metal Walt, who put this together. He's not my guest yet, but we're having really, person is a legend around music and has had an incredible life and so many stories. And a book out. We're going to get to all of it. So, Alysen Rowse, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have a chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, actually, I don't think I did you justice. So go ahead, please, and
Oh, you
you
did
know,
me very beautifully. Thank you.
well, Alysen is, I mean, self-described, right? One of the great groupies of all time. Self-described. This is not me talking shit or throwing insults or anything. I think she's awesome. So, like, none of, we won't stand for any of that kind of nonsense around here. But I think, yeah, you've had some
Thank you.
great, a great career, great life, and some great adventures with some amazing people. I mean, is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely fair. Being a groupie is not a bad thing. It's not a dirty word at all.
And that's, well, I know you've got a book out, and I've seen you talk a lot of places, and I think that that's so empowering. It's so awesome that that
Oh,
you
thank
just
you.
are so embracing. Yeah, I mean, I truly mean it. So, well, let's
Thanks.
start there so we can get out of the way. Like, because I'm sure
Okay.
I'm sure you've heard some shit. Like, how is, and I know you've talked about there's a community of like there's Pamela DeBar was one of the famous ones, and there was a Sweet Connie, and then
I knew Connie. I knew Connie. Pamela DeBars is in the middle of bitching me out in some comment section because I told her that in the 80s she was not an influence to us because we didn't know who she was. Her book didn't come out till a lot of us were already in the groupie scene in the 80s. And she's like, I'm your elder. I'm like, okay. So, but Connie, I knew Connie. I met her on tour with The Who in 1989 when I first met The Who. And she was one of the most amazing, kind, wonderful. She is the true queen of the groupie scene. That woman, I loved her.
wow. Well, yeah, I didn't realize that there was. Hopefully, you and Pamela DeBar kind of iron it out, or
We'll just
but
leave each other alone.
I mean, I'm not gonna put words in your mouth. Absolutely not. But I mean, I don't get the impression that people being judgy or saying stupid things about being judgmental and making snap judgments about you. I don't get the impression that that ever impacted you or affected you or made you change anything. But again, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Can you tell me
No,
about
no,
your
it
reads?
it kind of it affected me in the way because after obviously being with John Entwistle, when you're with in a situation like that, people are going to have an opinion and they're going to have a negative opinion because of what society has taught people to think of groupies. You know, we're just disposable. We're not friends with these guys. We're here to be parodied, and I get that a lot. Excuse me. I get that a lot since John died, especially in the comment section, because, oh, hooker, prostitute, murderer, druggie, which I never was any of that. I've proven it legally because I've sued Roger Daltrey, Rupert Murdoch, and others. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the only negative connotation I really get is from people like that who think the groupie is such a one-dimensional thing, and it's not. It's an experience that's very, very individual to that person in a way, even though we share a lot of the same musicians, a lot of the same, kind of experiences, but not totally the same. I think we're just generalized in a way. And like I said, when it comes to John and stuff like that, yeah, I can get a lot of flack and it's not nice. And I respond, I become very bitch.
Well, I don't mean to laugh. The way you said it, that's what I laugh at.
Yeah. Yeah,
But I
no, that's
mean,
fine.
You touched on something, that I'm sure will come up with every interview for the rest of your life. And it is an unfortunate, and must have been, that night must have been awful. I can't imagine what you went through. So, I
It
mean,
wasn't the
if you don't
night,
mind,
it was,
yeah,
yeah, it wasn't the night that was awful, it was the morning after,
sure.
And then,
Yeah.
I shouldn't laugh about it, but at this point, 23 years later, you have to laugh about a few things, and John would want me to see that sense of humor in it. But yeah, it was something I would not ever want anybody else to go through. I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy because you wake up to a man with rigor mortis, a man you knew I knew John for 13 years. It wasn't
Mhm.
just a one night thing, and just because of what my job was, which none of the rock stars I knew ever, I would not let them in my strip club. Period. Those are two separate worlds. But so they didn't see me as that. So for me to be dragged through the mud because of that and be called horrible things later, it put such an eclipse on everything I was going through that morning with John when I woke up and he had rigor mortis and lividity and was trying to do mouth to mouth and all this stuff, and it's having to deal with the public side of that really kind of put a hinder on me being able to mourn my friend and really kind of deal with the reality of that morning, for a lot of years.
Yeah, well, I mean, I am so, and if you didn't put two and two together, viewers, if you didn't know, yeah, Alysen was with John Entwistle, famously of the Who, and spent the night with him, and then woke up the next day to find him dead.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, well, I mean, a couple of questions off of this, and then I
Yeah.
know, like I said, I don't want to harp on this one incident,
Oh.
for your whole life, but could you, could you tell, n- uh, could you tell that he was kind of in trouble, like, or, in that time, or even at
Um,
times you'd seen him before that?
uh, he had never had any trouble, but the night before, yeah, I could absolutely 100%. He kept saying how he had had pain in his left shoulder, and he had had it previously because part of the coroner's report, and this all came out way before the Ox by Paul Reese came out in my book in 2014. But his left shoulder was hurting, so I was massaging it for him. And he said, "Yeah, it was hurting a couple weeks ago." Well, it turns out that afterwards, you know, the coroner's department and homicide was on the phone to me daily for months. So his heart showed previous scarring. So he might have had a mild heart attack before that. He definitely had the 75 to 100% blockage. And something that, because nobody ever asked me, including Paul Reese, who wrote that book, he never even talked to me. A lot of people don't know that the cocaine was cut with GHB and ecstasy.
Hmm.
And I don't do that. It's not my thing. Three other people in the room did that, but not me. There was four of us hanging out, two with their own spaces and me and Don in our space. But yeah, so that's why. And the shoulder like was hurting that night. And I just thought, because when he's playing bass and stuff, he's getting old, it gets that way. So you sometimes don't see you don't see the indicators for what they are sometimes. And I look back on that and think, wow. Mm.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Again, no one. It's completely unfair for anyone to say anything, have anything negative, or make negative assumptions or any of that stuff. It's completely unfair. And even to say, well, you should have seen the signs, because who would? 99.9% of us who are not medical professionals, even medical professionals, probably would have said, yeah, you're sore from playing bass or something, or
Yeah,
maybe
and
go get that checked
I
out.
was a stripper and in a very physical job, doing pole tricks and stuff like that and weird poses for magazines. And my shoulders hurt. Oh, yeah, you do. You think those poses in the adult magazines are easy? No. It's like holding the worst yoga pose you can for 20 minutes. But yeah, so it's like you don't think about it because my I have a bad shoulder, so it's just like, oh, this is normal, you know.
Yeah. All right. Well,
And then you wake up the next morning.
my last question about this is, how did that kind of change things for you, in your whole life? I mean, obviously that's got to be a life-changing incident, I would think. So how did that change
Oh,
things for you?
it definitely was. I had lived in Vegas for 8 years and I absolutely loved Vegas. It was my adult home. I had made this whole life there, because I was very much part of the social scene in Vegas before all this happened. So I knew the mayor, I knew all these people around town, I knew a lot of the VIP and everybody. So I was in college for art history. I was planning to go to the UK and finish my degree, and it just put a whole stop onto my life because all of a sudden this is happening and I need to get the hell out of Vegas, you know. I moved. I moved from a place that I had no intention of leaving until the next year to go to the UK, back to the UK, you know, and it really kind of put my life on a total trajectory. I never in a million years wanted to write a book, and here I am, an author, working on a second book. It's like a long book, you know, but it changed it in a lot of negative ways. It changed it in positive ways too, you know, and first and foremost, I lost a dear friend that I loved very much.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. Well, I lied because I have one more comment. No, there's a, I don't
Okay,
know
yeah, no.
if, well, I mean, I'm not sure. I know you know so many different musicians over the years, but there was a
Mhm.
singer, songwriter big in the 90s named Elliott Smith who died
Yeah,
in, I don't know if you knew him, but, you know,
never met him. I know who he is. Good
yeah,
music.
his story echoes, there's some, and the bullshit that came up afterwards. There's a lot of that where,
Hmm.
it's a tragic, awful story. He really lost his way with substance misuse and committed suicide in a hotel room, and his girlfriend Jennifer Chiba was there with him. And just for
Yeah,
25 years since, there's been rumor and gossip about, what really happened that night. Yeah, I wasn't there, of course. I don't know anything about what happened, but
no,
I feel for, again, I hear your story and I hear like I know you both went through the same kinds of things afterwards.
yeah. Well, and I think it's again goes back to society treating, the women that are eating the apple off the tree, we're the damn sinners, you know. And one of the lines in the book, my second book that I'm working on is, they walk with the sin, we walk with the shame, as far as when it comes to rock stars and groupies, and that's what they do. It's like, why are the women the sinners? I was the only one that didn't do the cocaine. I did not bring it in the room. I've proven it legally. I've pictured and named the person who brought it in the room, one of their roadies, so it was like it's natural for society to damn the woman. You know, look at how rock stars get applauded for betting the groupies, but the groupies get shamed. And I own that walk of shame. I'm like, yeah, you wish you could do me. You wish you could be doing what I just did last night. You know it, you know.
Yeah, and again,
So you just
that's
gotta flip it on their head.
yeah, that's fantastic. Like I said, I do find it empowering. So kudos to you. My hat's not literally off to you, but it's off. My
Well,
hat's
thank
off.
you.
Well, and so let's talk about your. I mean, I don't know if career is the right word in this, but you tell me if it is the right word. But yeah, your career in this or your
No,
life.
because that's nothing that I got paid for. It's just my social circle, so it's my adventures. Because somebody saying getting your career, it connotates getting paid, and then it leads back to the whole job thing. It's like no, but yeah, and I know you don't mean it offensively by any means. Um, but yeah, no, it's Salt Lake City. A lot of people don't know. In 1985, we moved here from a small town in Missouri, so think Salt Lake City's like this huge city, and you're just so excited, just don't realize how small it is to New York and stuff. But and it happened to be the groupie capital of the world. And I had already met my first rock star when I was in Missouri and Kansas City, staying there for a convention for the Rainbow Girls, which is part of the Masons. So by the time I hit Salt Lake City, I was like, "Fuck yeah!" had, had met David Lee Roth, lost the V card to David Lee Roth, moved to Salt Lake City, and was just like hit the ground running, never looked back. And I'm not sorry.
Well, you should be. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, no, no. I think that I can't, what someone, as you said, so many people really want to be there, want to have had the same connection, these same experiences. And I was going to ask is, what your years active, are you still active or you feel like, no, that's kind of
um,
the past now?
Well, active is kind of relative in a way because I started in 85, it's literally spent 30 years. I mean, 1985, 2002, and beyond, hanging out with rock stars, touring with rock stars. And now it's like over the past, five so years, it's just kind of evolved into, I mean, even after John died, it was evolving into this is my friends. Let's go out. We go have dinner the night before the show. We hang out, we catch up. But I don't go to the concerts as much as I used to because it's just some big selfie show. You're not vibing the way we used to in the 80s and 90s at concerts. So it's kind of evolved. I'm not like, I don't go sleep with every band member that I see anymore. There's other things going on in my life as far as that's concerned. But yeah, it's still my social circle. They're still my friends. We all made memories together, and I still love them.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well,
Yeah.
let's name some of the best people, some of the classiest and best people you've come across, people who you feel like
Um,
that someone who really has their act together,
oh, that really has the act together.
or just
Definitely,
yeah.
there's been a lot of people. I mean, it's really hard to pinpoint anybody having their act together because especially in the 80s, did any of us have our act together? We were
Yeah,
all so young,
we'll
but
yeah. Sorry, we'll cut that, but yeah, we'll just
no,
say
go
like
ahead.
who are some of your favorite people like from the from your
Some of my favorite people, of course, Metallica, like every groupie has their band that's like their center of their world, of the groupie world, that's their priority. And Metallica and James Hetfield, he was like the first rock star that I stupidly fell in love with, that puppy love crap. Um, of course, David Lee Roth, he's one of my favorite people because he's just like one of the most sensible people you'll meet, and he doesn't mix words, but he's one of the kindest people you'll meet. Dave Gahan, best one I ever had. Loved hanging out with John, hanging out with Mick Jagger. I mean, God, there's just so Dave Mustaine is a blast. Loved me some Chuck Billy, Gary Lightbody from Snow Patrol. Had a blast smoking weed with Neil Diamond. I mean,
wow.
but one of my favorites was hanging out with Digital Underground when Tupac was still part of the band. Because just meeting Tupac in an environment where he was before the fame, before he was who he was, and everything that was going on in his life, and seeing this person that he was one of the most amazing people I've ever met.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. Well, and rest in peace, Tupac and Shock G, who also seems like a
Yeah.
class guy. Yeah. Rest in peace, both of them.
They were so much fun. We hung out with him in a few cities, so it was a blast.
That's cool. And then I also like that, you've got, well, did you say Dave Gahan like Depeche Mode? Is that what I heard?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Oh, yeah. Mm, I love that man.
Um, yeah, see, I mean, it's I've seen them live many times. Not, different experience I think you and I've
Mhm.
had, I think. But I've seen him live.
Oh, yeah.
He's just
Sorry. You watch him on stage, and that doesn't even begin to see what he's like off his feet. And it's like, oh God, I'm in trouble. You know, I'm not going
wow.
to be able to walk in the morning happily.
Wow. Yeah. All right. I don't know what else to say. Yeah, I was gonna comment on his dancing
Yeah,
ability, but I don't think I don't think that's what you're talking about. His
it
dancing.
translates. It translates. No, it translates because I think any groupie knows that when you watch your musician on stage, there's an element to foreplay to that because he makes love to his instrument or his microphone or the music just the same way he's going to be with you off stage.
I've heard this said. I mean, I'm not again not assuming anything. I've heard this said. Like I've heard people, both men and women, say this about Slash. They're like, the way he looks at that guitar. It's like, like a lot of women are like, I wish I could be that guitar the way he's looking at it. Is that kind of something you see like when you watch a performer up there?
I've
Like,
Yeah, exactly. And I've heard Slash is great. I don't know. I had Axl Rose, which was okay, fun, but
um, well, I
maybe I
mean,
should have moved to the stage right a little more.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, he has a cool hat. Again, that's all I can tell you.
No, he
So
has a certain cool vibe to him that not a lot of people have. It's just like he can walk in the room and not even care, but he's still gonna own that room without a word. Some people just have that larger than life personality. Like John Entwistle definitely had it. He could walk into a room and all heads would turn. Slash has that.
wow. Yeah, I mean, again, I've never met him in person, but yeah, it comes through the screen. It comes from the stage. Like he's yeah.
Yeah.
Just I mean, it's like I guess the confidence. But so I guess what I was kind of getting at is when you're watching a band, you kind of just watching this guy and saying like, or watching this performer and saying that is so sexy. I've got to learn more about this
Yeah.
person. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like okay, well, I watched Kip Winger on MTV and watched him moving around the stage with his little moves that he did and whatever Bulge you watch that stuff and then when they come in town, you're like, oh yeah, I want Kip Winger. You go get Kip Winger and you're like, oh, okay, dude, let's see if you translate. You know?
Well, that was kind of because Kip Winger, such an unattractive guy. It was kind of you to, throw him a bone because he's really this one of the least attractive men on the planet. I mean, really. Poor guy.
Dude, he got too excited. He got too excited and left a real bad taste in my mouth that I cannot forget to this day. And that was 1989.
Oh, well, maybe things have changed over the years. I don't know. Um,
Well, like he's a little older. I'm sure it takes a little longer.
yeah, I mean well, well, sure. Let's go there for a minute. Like I have slam related questions for you watching for the mental health stuff. We're gonna get there, but because
Okay.
I mean you've kind of been with musicians or people of all different age groups. I mean, how does this kind of change as everybody gets older? And none of us are getting any younger, let's face it. But how does it change as everyone gets older? I'll put it that delicately.
You know what? I was dating guys in their 20s or their 40s and 50s in my 20s. And not because I have daddy issues by any means at all. It's just kind of, it's just, I'm still dating the same guys in their 50s, you know? I'm in my 50s. And it just, I don't know. It really didn't change from the age to age as far as, being in my 20s. And now being in my 50s, it's just we date a little differently. I think everybody does at this age. Like I say, it's not the wild times. You don't have to go get drunk and go do some antic out, on the temple grounds in Salt Lake City or whatever. You just kind of mellow out a little bit and enjoy your time.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's well said. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me ask. Let's this is slam. This is support life and music. So let me ask. Have you ever been in circumstances where you've been with people who were just not either because of they're high or drunk or just they themselves are just not in the right headspace? Like what? Like have you
Yeah.
ever been in those situations, or what do you do when you're in those situations?
You know what? Musicians break down on the road all the time because, especially back then, because you're at a pace of 24 to 48 hours a day. Back then, you have 5 to 6 shows a week. You barely have time off. It is 2 a.m. or 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. kind of a lifestyle in 24 hours at a time. So all you can do is let them get it out and be there for them. And if you feel unsafe, the road is a family. You call the tour manager. Just like when John died, I gave him mouth to mouth and was doing all that, and then ran across the room to find the rooming list, called his personal assistant, called the tour manager after I called 911. So you just be there for each other. It's just the same as somebody you cared for or were involved with was having crashing out. All you can do is be there or say, hey, you've got to stop this. You're killing yourself. You know, it's like when I would hang out with Dave Gahan, he would do less heroin because that's not my thing. And he knows I'm silently judging him, you know?
Well, I mean, so yeah, that's a good thing. And I mean, also, what about the other? Like, again, I know that you said there's kind of a groupie community. Like, have you seen that in others? Not necessarily just the groupies, but others, like not necessarily the people on the stage, like the roadies, the groupies, the managers, and
Oh,
other folks.
absolutely.
Yeah, is it the
Yeah, when
same
I
kind of?
say we're the road family, I mean every single one of us out there on the road. One of my best friends is an FO front of house legend. The music you see out in the middle of the crowd, the mixing board, that's FOH. One of my best friends to this day, an FOH legend. One of my other closest friends, a tour manager. My two closest friends, the two groupies that I've hung out with my whole life. So we are a family and nobody else gets this. Nobody else understands what we're going through. So of course we're gonna all stick together because it's our safe space.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I mean, obviously, this is why support life music. That's why we exist. Is because musicians have it harder.
Yeah,
And actually, you touched you. I can tell you absolutely get what we're all about. I mean, people.
yeah,
Have you encountered that where people just think like, well, they're rock stars, they're rich, they're famous. Like, I wish I had their problems. Like, it's their fault. Like that they're druggies and that kind of stuff. Like you run into,
yeah, every day.
yeah, it's
All the
bullshit.
time, all the time. Like I say, it always goes back to John because here we have the ultimate rock and roll death. Stripper, groupie, Las Vegas, cocaine, hard rock. Oh my God, he would even want that room enshrined, because I know John was like, all right, at least I went out with a bang, literally. But yeah, all the time because again, society has such a fantasy of what these guys are when they're on the stage. They're in their costumes, they've got their rock star facade on, they've got the pyros, the music, everything. It's so intoxicating. And we've had stupid movies like Rockstar that makes you think women are gonna stand in line to sleep with the lead singer or that it's always an orgy and a party and a drugged up, and it's not that at all. Even under Def Leppard stage in the 80s, there was like two of us just running around naked, no crazy stuff, you know? So it's over parodied, and society kind of takes it too seriously. So instead of like learning from the groupies in the comments, sometimes they just go on attack mode, because I am not going to be wrong and you are disposable type of thing. So yeah.
Hey everyone, it's Doro Pesh here, and please support live and music. And I love you. Keep on rocking, stay metal, and all the very best. This was Doro.
Well, and now I know rock culture and backstage culture and everything has changed in the 2020s. It certainly has changed and it's continuing to change. Are we going in the right direction, or is there still a lot of bad stuff out there?
No, no,
No.
we're not going to the right direction. And it's not because there's a lot of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's because the corporate world has taken over. And when that happens, the rock and roll dies. Like you have Metallica, the biggest band in the world, but the shittiest band in the world now. They have become everything that they swore they never would be. They're corporate. They don't even go in the same recording studio anymore. There's no connection. And when the corporation takes over, of course you're going to lose this creativity. Of course you're going to be nickeled and dimed to death. Like even for me to be on the guest list, it's like Live Nation has to approve this. I remember when I would just walk up, be handed a backstage pass, go in the door, and it still is like that for me sometimes. But still, I have to be approved for someone I've known for 30 years to be on their guest list because they don't even control their tours anymore. So in that aspect, it's going in the wrong direction. But I think you have people in a society now where, like, I am a independent published author. I am, and I think a lot of people are becoming more independent published musically as well. So that aspect is moving in the right direction. But right now in the corporate world, or the rock and roll, like with the big names, it's all corporate and it's all bullshit. It's no fun anymore.
Well, so it's a follow-up to that then. What can we as individuals do to kind of push back and reclaim, or maybe not reclaim, maybe make a better future for this scene?
No, reclaim it is actually the perfect word. First of all, put away your goddamn cell phones at the concert and start talking to each other. Pass the joints around again. Don't make everything about the fucking selfie and bragging that you're at the show. You know what I mean? Stop. Like, we see too many videos of people beating each other up for their seats. It's like, that's not what it was about. First of all, put away your social media facade and just be you. Second of all, put away your phones and just rock out with your cock out like we used to do. Sleep out for those general admission seats like we used to do in the 80s. It's find that connection in the music again.
All right, yeah, beautifully said. So who out like in the younger bands and younger crowd, younger generation, who's out there that's kind of giving you hope that you see a lot of promise and that you really like?
Everybody's so hot on Youngblood right now, and I love, like, he's so kind and he's so out there, and he's bringing something new to the table, but honestly, I can't get into his music, and I'm wondering when he's going to change his goddamn leather pants that he borrowed from Slash from the 80s. You know what I mean? I'm just not seeing a shit ton of anything new out here that excites me. I mean, there's a guy on TikTok, Francis Doom, that I absolutely love. He's very hypnotic, and he's got his kind of own sound, but really no one that's making me go, fuck yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely have to search for it. I think you have to dig harder now. I think that's also part of what you were talking about. Like things become so fragmented, and again, that's probably a whole other conversation. Um,
Yeah.
well, all right. Let me ask. Let me switch. Well, you know what? I actually wasn't going to ask you about this, but I'll ask you since we're kind of there. I ask a lot of musicians who come on and industry folks about streaming. What's your opinion? What's your take on music streaming? Like, has it destroyed everything? Is it the best thing? What's your take on it?
No, I think streaming really does reach people who can't get to you because concert tickets are so friggin' expensive right now that it gives people who can't afford to go to those concerts, that can't afford to pay anywhere from $300 to $3,000 depending on your package. it gives them an opportunity to see, to reach out, to expand. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It just depends on how the streaming is used. You know what I mean? Like again,
Right.
if it's too corporate to promote, or if it's just really to reach out to your fans.
No, I get it. Okay. All right. So I'm trying to think of how I wanted to, this next one. I'm going to ask you to go with me, Minnie, because I'm not sure exactly how I want to ask this, but I do have
Okay.
a question at the end of this. But because I'm going to
Okay.
talk all about me, right? You came on to talk about me, Alysen, right? That's the point is you came on the show to
Yeah,
talk about
I
me.
love talking about, but you know what? What about you? I want to hear your opinion too, actually.
Oh, my opinion on streaming is that, yeah, I think it is truly wonderful. I'll say something, I've said this before on the show, but I remember in the 90s, I worked in the record store in the 90s. I remember people coming in and saying, "Oh, do you have this?" "No, we don't have it in stock." They'll say, "Oh, you got to hear it. It's so great." And I'd have to say, "Okay, I hope I hear it someday." You know, like
Yeah, 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 that's true.
I hope because I'm not going to go out and spend $20 on the CD for a song I've never heard before. So it's like, well, I hope, like they'll never play the song you recommend on the radio. So how will I ever hear this song? People, you'll love this song. Okay, I'll take your word for it. Like I said, that's how I
Yeah.
discovered Robin Trower. I don't know if you've ever met him, but but
Oh, yes. Yeah, actually, I have. When I was with another musician and we were just backstage, he happened to be playing. So, yeah.
okay, yeah, that's someone I remember. Someone said you got to hear. Radio never fucking plays Robin Trower. It's like okay, it took me like literally a couple of years after somebody
No,
recommended him.
radio doesn't play half the music that's really great. Like, when have you heard Band of Horses or, Bon Iver or whoever? Really great friggin' bands that most people will never hear. When do you ever hear that on the radio? You don't because corporation has taken over.
By the way, I
The
love both
sponsors
those bands.
want it. Yeah, great bands, right?
Yes, and Grizzly Bear. I can't like those bands from that era. I just love those bands to
Yeah.
death.
Well,
So,
with Band of Horses, they have a song, "The Great Salt Lake." Can't hate them for that.
of course, right. But yeah, so I mean, my story, and like I said, there was a time, believe it or not, I've definitely aged quite a bit. There was a time where I was kind of on the first wave of podcasting, and I had a lot better hair and better physique, and so I got kind of nothing at all like what Allison's talking about. And I'm not like trying to gossip or anything, but I got some attention. Um,
Nice.
so where I'm going with this is I'm not just trying to brag, and like I said, I'm not trying to talk about me, but like I said, it was
You're not bragging.
but I
No,
mean,
I don't think it's bragging because you're just talking about your history.
right, but I mean, you're like no one people want to hear your story. But I mean, the reason why I even bring this up is not just an attempt to look cool, but I mean, it's like I think it's important. What I felt even at the time, I never wanted anyone to feel used or dismissed or like impersonal or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'm gonna just shut up there. I've already talked myself in a corner, but can you take it from there? Like, is that a kind of thing?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that because, I mean, again, society thinks that groupies are just used, stupid, disposable, but we're not. We are friends. We are confidants. I mean, I always talk about how I take on the lovers, because the people are like, well, that sounds just like someone you would be your friends with benefit. No, it's like a friendship. It's you still go out, you still do things, you still have sex, you still do, you're a totally different confidant because when you're dating and rock and roll, by the third date, you're living together in that hotel room, on that bus, in that plane, backstage, every second you are together, So, oh shit, now I forgot where I was going with
Well, I mean, I was saying like no one. I
it.
don't think anyone should ever be made to feel like
Yeah,
impersonal.
no, we're not disposable. I mean, the Rock guys are some of the most chivalrous, respectful, protective men I've ever met in my life, outside my dad and my grandparents, stuff like that. But, and a lot of society thinks that it's so disconnected. But dating normal men has been more of a trauma to me than any rock star ever because they made me feel disposable. They made me feel like something was wrong with me. When I would go into rock and roll, it's like I am comfortable, I am safe, I am content, I am me. No holds barred.
All right, that's great. Now, I mean, I actually that does take me back. Now, I read Nikki Sixx's book, and I think the Heroin Diaries, of course. I mean, have
Yeah.
you read the book?
I didn't read the book because, I don't read a lot of rock and roll memory autobiographies or anything because I was there on a lot of them. I already knew the guys.
Sure. Yeah. No, I get it. And well, here's me as the reader, and Nikki, if you're watching, like, bear with me because as I'm reading, I'm going like, oh my God, this guy is such an asshole. But I applaud him for sharing this. He's sharing it because he's not an asshole. He's sharing it because he's saying like, this is
Mhm.
where I was and this is who I was, and his kids have read it, and like he's
Yeah.
trying to. So kudos to him for that. Like I said, but I guess I was trying to get to
Nikki's
like the.
always been who Nikki is, and I think he gets a lot of flack because, he's the one guy in Motley Crue that is like the business manager of the whole band. Every band has what I call the Führer, so to speak, and in Motley Crue, that's Nikki. In Metallica, it's actually James. It's not Lars. It is James, 100%. In Judas Priest, it's Glenn Tipton. That's the head of the band, and Nikki has had to make decisions for a lot of people because the rest of the band is like, I don't want to deal with it. So he's had to do stuff that didn't make him look very friendly.
Well, you brought a really great question to mind. I'm probably going to ask in future episodes. I think this is a really great topic. I think well, we've touched on. I think a lot of people, the men and women, get into this and it's like, I don't want to have a real job, so I just want to party, and that's why I'm in the band. I don't care. Everything will take care of itself. We'll be rich, but like you said, that's not
Hmm.
reality. The reality is what you're talking about. Nikki
No.
Sixx, James Hetfield, Gene Simmons. These guys were like, this is a business. Let's treat it like so. What has been
Yeah.
your experience around that kind of thing, where guys are just like, fuck it, we're just partying. Like, I don't care what happens, versus the more practical and level-headed
And you
guys.
know what? I've had him complain. I've been with the guy who's not the head of the CEO of the band, so to speak. And they're complaining about it. It's like, well, you should have spoke up when he asked you. You were sitting right here, but instead you wanted to go hang out at Père Lachaise or whatever, do whatever touristy things today, rather than sitting in on that band meeting. So you have no one to blame but yourself. If you want to change it, it's just like, everybody thinks KK just left Judas Priest. Oh no, that was not it. There was ego struggles. And he could have come back, but Glenn Tipton's like, no, you know? So, I mean, it's you either have to speak up or you've got to throw a coup to get the head of the band to get out of the power, whatever, but it's not going to happen. And
Wow.
if you want to just sit there and party, then just take your cut and don't say a word.
Well, we had Stephen Rosen on a couple of months ago.
Mhm.
The journalist guy. So did it, when Van Halen had their first big split, was that your observation too? It was just that this town wasn't big enough for the two of them. Was it like that, or is that?
Yeah, because some bands are just a little, not every band can hold the egos together. If every ego is that big. Alex is the only one in that band that didn't have an ego. He just sat behind the drums like cool beans. But there was always that struggle with Eddie and with David Lee because David Lee's like, no, I'm the center of what everybody's coming to see because I'm the lead singer. And Eddie's like, but no, I'm the guitar god. So there's always going to be that struggle in every band.
There, yeah. Again, your understanding of this is really fantastic. You have a little bit more time for a couple more questions. Are you good?
Yeah, I have plenty of time. I don't have anything to do today.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess I'm kind of bouncing around. Apologies for that. But so maybe can you throw out a name or two? Again, we don't. I mean, well, actually, I'm not going to restrain you. So say as much as you want. But
Yeah.
throw out a couple of names maybe that would surprise some people. If they're like, really, that guy? Or are there any names that would
Well, like
surprise
I
people?
said, Gary Lightbody and Snow Patrol, people don't think. I mean, this is a guy who had a cocaine problem and had to become sober, who was complaining about, oh, 7 years I didn't make a great Snow Patrol album. I just wasn't creative. Oh, but you made two albums with Tired Pony, didn't you? You just wanted out of your band. But I mean, there's a lot of people that, God, hold on, I would have to go through all my passes because country singers like Toby Keith, of course. There's a lot of rap stars that I've hung out with, danced on stage with Tone Loc and all this during the MTV club tours and stuff. I've met the Jacksons, like Tito Germain and Joseph Jackson. That creeped me the fuck out. But God, there's so many people that they're not into groupies. They're not. It's like, oh yeah, everybody's into groupies. Like everybody thinks the grunge gods killed the groupie scene. No, hell no. I slept with half of them. You know,
Yeah. Well,
Only
yeah.
Eddie Vedder and.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, we didn't really touch on grunge, and I've seen in other
Mm,
interviews, yeah, you've mentioned Toby Keith and some country stars, and yeah, I
yeah.
guess that you've
Well,
answered.
and I lived in Seattle during the 90s, so I had grunge at my doorstep.
Okay, wow, that's incredible. That's like that's a whole other episode.
Magical. It was so magical. Like people think LA in the 80s was badass. No, you didn't live in Seattle in the 90s was way more cooler because it was just so kicked back. It wasn't crazy. Everybody trying to get some or be something, or you know what I mean? It was just, oh, walking through Pike Street. Oh, there's Jerry Cantrell. Don't poop on my friend again. You know?
Wow. Well, I mean, are the stereotypes true though? Again, this is slam, so gotta ask, are the stereotypes true about Seattle? Like we lost so many of our great Seattle musicians. You know, I know Heron was
Well,
awful.
I was living, yeah, I was living there when Kurt passed away, and I saw Courtney a few days later. And backstage at Nine Inch Nails, and I got stuck in a car with her and her goddamn Barney doll that Trent had given Francis Bean. And I was just like, oh God, get me out of here. But no, I mean, I'm not into heroin. That was never my scene, but I knew a lot of the bands from Green Apple Quickstep to Alice Chains to My Sister's Machine to the Melvins, you know, and it was just like this collective of friends hanging out that happened to be rock stars. I mean, Eddie Vedder lived around the corner. Cornell lived a couple blocks away, you know, and it was just like I said, very kickback, very cool. Like Kim Thayil was never doing heroin, and the rest of Soundgarden wasn't really into heroin, but Chris Cornell was. The rest of Nirvana wasn't really into heroin, but Kurt was. So everybody associates grunge with heroin because these are the stories we hear, but it was not something that I really saw a whole lot of. I just saw everybody hanging out at the Brick down by the Pike Street Market and jamming on some little bongos in the corner.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say personally, but yeah, it sounds magical. I mean, I remember where I was when I heard about
Uh,
Kurt, but I was in New York City. I was in an apartment in New York City. So,
Oh
um,
wow. See, I think we'd been there. I just moved back there a week because that was my second time living in Seattle. And then before I left for Vegas, I ended up backstage at Pantera, one of the coolest times I've ever had. Anybody, and I was with Vinnie Paul, it was the night we got together, but anybody and everybody who was on the Seattle scene was backstage with Pantera. Like guys from Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, every Soundgarden, everybody, every Screaming Trees. And then we leave, and I introduced my friend to Mikey Inez from Alice in Chains. We leave, go to the break, and then end up in the studio with Alice in Chains with Jerry and Mikey and me and Andrea and Vinny, just listening to this album as they're in the progress of making. And I was just like, and Vin and I were in our own little world, and Jerry had to scream at us, "Listen to the album!" And we're like, okay, you know. But it was you look back and I'm like, how fucking cool is that? Because we used to go, and we still hung out at the studio because my friend was still seeing Mike Inez. And in fact, he stayed with her 8 years later when he died, when Lane died, and he came back up for the funeral. But it was just really cool because we used to go to Lane's place in Queen Anne and knock on the door, and if he wouldn't come, we'd go to Bike Rack, smoke a joint, come back, knock again, and he would come diving in the back of the car and put his hand in my head in my lap, and I would just pet his head, get him to the studio, be on our way.
wow, incredible stuff, man.
Yeah.
Incredible stories. Well, I mean,
Thanks.
so what is your advice for musicians? Because I mean, so many of these names that you're rattling off, we lost way too young, and didn't need
Yeah.
to have lost them. It's not their fault, but I'm saying like we didn't need. It's a shame, damn shame.
No.
So many of these guys are not here today. What's your advice for musicians to not fall into that downward spiral? You know that
You
drugs and
don't need to live
suicide.
the rock star life, you know? I mean, I understand that we all make our mistakes, but like Steve Jones has been sober for 30 some odd years. Good on him, man. I mean, just don't go into the spiral, but don't ignore the groupies at the hotel bar anymore, musicians. You need the groupies, you need the laughter band. Without them, rock and roll is boring. So no drugs, lots of groupies.
That's the prescription for. Well, I mean, that's that. I guess that maybe that doesn't apply to everyone. What's your advice for just the man and woman on the street for living a happy life and not kind of falling into despair and that?
Be
What's your
true to
advice?
yourself. Just be true to you. Don't let anybody else change you into their version of what they want you to be. As long as you're a good human being who's not hurting anybody, just be true to you, live the life you want, and who gives a fuck about what anybody says anymore?
Yeah, that's perfectly said. That's perfectly stated, man. I think, like I said, I definitely want. You're welcome to come back anytime. I really enjoyed this conversation. This has
I
been
would love to. Anytime you just reach out, I will be happy to come back.
that'd be awesome. Well, let's take it out with why don't you promote because you talked about your book is out. You have another book coming out, and then you've
Yep.
again anything. Tell us where people can find you or find your
Yeah.
cool stuff.
So yeah, my book, We've Got Tonight, The Life and Times of Notorious Groupie Alysen Rowse. It's available on Amazon. I have three little ebooks, just like 20 pages, how to flirt with a rock star, how to be a groupie's guide to, life on the road, stuff like that. I have a channel, Cocktails and Rocktails. My second book will be out in December. It's called And She Was, Life in the Aftermath, because we're all living in some sort of aftermath, aren't we? So yeah, it's all out there. Just hit Amazon, just Google Alysen Rowse and you'll find me.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, and thank you out there for watching. Alysen Rouse, everyone, go and check
Thanks.
out her books and look out for the next one.
And thank you so much. You take care, Jack. I'll talk to you soon.